Celebrating 25 years of media excellence. Thanks for being with us every step of the way. Hello and welcome to Joy News Interactive with me, Na Ajele Doku. Join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter on Joy News on TV. Our WhatsApp number is 0540109009. Now, the first on our menu is to pick your thoughts on a row over the new voters register. And it appears the two major political parties are divided on that. The governing new NPP, the New Patriotic Party, campaign coordinator for 2020 elections, Peter McMenu, is dismissing claims that the NPP is the beneficiary of the new electoral roll. He argues NDC is kicking against the new voters register over fear of losing the elections with their candidate John Mahama. He is confident the electorate would re-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo based on his sterling performance over the last 3 years.
It is not the fault of any Ghanaian that the NDC chose to bring back as their presidential candidate for 2020 the very man whose hands the NDC suffered their biggest defeat in history. It is not the fault of NPP that the NDC chose to bring back as their 2020 presidential candidate the very same man who gave Ghana the worst economic growth performance since 1994. It is not the fault of President Akufo-Addo that the NDC has very little confidence in their own chosen candidates for the 2020 elections in the person of John Mahama. We do not need the EC to rig an election in our favor. A government that has put 1.3 million children to school, who, if NDC was in power, would be on the streets, does not need an election to be rigged in its favor. A government that has restored industry and is creating jobs for the people does not need an election to be rigged in its favor. A government that has put 100,000 unemployed graduates to work does not need an election to be rigged in its favor. A government that has put the interests of the ordinary Ghanaian first, whether it is protecting money of millions of depositors or absorbing the cost of electricity and water of 30 million Ghanaians to ease the suffering of the people when there is a crisis, such a government does not need an election to be rigged in its favor. We intend to fight and win in December based on our performance.
Now, the opposition, the National Democratic Congress, on the other hand, is alleging both the Electoral Commission and the National Identification Authority are scheming to rig the general elections for the governing NPP. NEC Chairman Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo said the EC's insistence on making the Ghana card and passport the only requirement for the enrollment of the new voters register for the new voters will disenfranchise most of their supporters.
It does appear that the Jim Mensah-led EC, ably supported by the Kenatefa-led NIA, are only interested in rigging the 2020 general elections for President Akufo-Addo and the ruling New Patriotic Party through voter suppression in NDC strongholds. Clearly, a conspiracy between the EC, NIA, and President Akufo-Addo to rig the 2020 general election. It is the kind of conspiracy that has plunged many a country into chaos and instability. We of the NDC do not wish this for our dear country, hence our constant warnings. The exclusion of the voter ID card from the requirement of registration for the national ID card by the Akufo-Addo-led government was part of a well-calculated scheme to disenfranchise a good number of Ghanaians from acquiring a national ID card, Ghana card, which was to be used subsequently as one of the registration requirements in the new voters register plan they had long hatched.
Now, most of you have been commenting on this particular issue. Let's read some of your comments on Facebook. And State of Mind said there's absolutely nothing wrong with the current register. The EC admitted that fact after using it for the district assembly elections and subsequently the referendum. The biometric devices are still intact. And anyone who tells you it's faulty is just part of a grand scheme to chop our taxes for free. Hassan says the worry of NDC is that there might be a plan of rigging elections by the NPP by registering less in the NDC strongholds and vice versa. But with the NPP, I still don't understand. How will you be against a voters register that gave you over 53% plus votes? And Leslie says, in 2012, NDC requested for a new voter register and it came to pass. Whatever the NPP wish for will also come to pass, so far as the great elephant is on the throne. And that's his comments coming on Facebook concerning the issue, the back and forth of the new voters register. Joy says, now they're exposing their own lies. Let's not forget what they told the NDC when they were in opposition. Shaking my head. Latif says, this is hard. We're in hard times. New registers, no voters register for what reason? Michael Gatti says, we don't need a new register at this time. If the president is really thinking about Ghanaians, they should rather divert that money to buy PPEs and testing kits to do mass testing for COVID-19. If the president really cares about Ghanaians, not his political gains. Mohammed says, we are not in normal times, so we don't. And truly, we're not in normal times. Hassan says, we do not need it in this critical moment. Yao says, no need, crowd. We don't need it. If the old register was able to produce Akufo-Addo to become president, then why does he fear? Or there's a mischief he wants to achieve with the EC chairperson? Those are your comments on Facebook about what's happening with the back and forth with both the NPP and the NDC on the new voters register. Now, very soon we will take you to Kumasi, the Kofoanochi Hospital to be precise, where President Akufo-Addo will cut sword for work to commence on the 47-year-old abandoned maternity and child health block.